At this time, and as Mr. Tucker is preparing his presentation, we'll have the report and recommendations of the superintendent. We are looking forward to the State of the School address.
Okay, what I'd like to do tonight is go through a number of different things. There's two parts to what I'm going to go over tonight. First is some mandates that you probably aren't aware of that the legislature did early on or later in the year that they did in their lame duck session. And then two, I'd like to go over some of the successes and some of the areas that we're trying to do. So the first thing I'd like to do is what education is today. And I'm speaking to a whole lot of folks out here that went to school when I did, or even earlier, or a little after, and some people that taught. When we went to school, the word was, we taught it, they didn't learn it, that's too bad. I taught it, that's just the way it is. There's a big difference today under the accountability, which came into place under the proficiency test, if you remember those, back in the late 90s. And the real question is not whether you taught it or covered it. The question is, does the student learn the material? If they didn't, then what do you do? And then when they don't do, what do you do? That's what the whole thing about the tests are now about. The other thing is you hear people talk about, now that was a good principal, now he was a good superintendent. Well, prior to really the 90s, superintendents and principals, all they had to be were good managers. What were principals related on? They ran a good cafeteria. The buses were there on time. By God, those kids were in rows. But nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, you're going, those test scores didn't measure up in that school. What's wrong with that? That Tucker didn't get those test scores up. They're an academic emergency. Nobody ever talked about that in the old days. So that's a big thing that's changed under the educational landscape today. Now, what happened in the lame duck session was House Bill 555. A couple of things I want to go over because it's been in the paper that you need to know about. The district report cards that you see every year. Lame duck session changed that, and now they're going to have new district report cards, and they're going to be, rather than academic emergency, academic watch, continuous improvement, effective excellent, we're going to be graded A, B, C, D, F. And they're going to change the way those report cards are actually graded. And what they're going to grade them on are these things here. These are the performance measures. One is achievement. We've always been measured on achievement. How well do we score on tests? Our graduation rate, how many kids or the percentage that we have graduating. We're getting rid of AYP because pretty much except for teachers and administrators and people in the educational world, a lot of people didn't understand AYP. But what we're going to be looking at now is gap closing. In Lorain schools,
excuse me, but a lot of people don't know what AYP means.
Average yearly growth, average yearly performance, whatever. But what we're going to is gap closing. In Lorain schools, we have a lot of different what they call subgroups, and those subgroups are your African American, your Caucasian, your Hispanic, and special needs, and pretty much in Lorain we have just about every category there is, with the exception of maybe Alaskan and American Indian as a category, because you have to have so many of those people. So what they're going to be grading us on is how well we close the gap between those groups. Progress, we've always been graded on progress, how much the students learn. And we're going to be graded on K-3 literacy. And what K-3 literacy involves is that third grade guarantee, which I'm going to talk about. The other big thing is going to be called prepared for success. And that replaces college and career ready. Now what that is going to mean is this. What they're going to do now is they're going to track our kids when they leave us. Prior to that, once we got them graduated, pretty much we were done. But what they're going to do now is, in the report card this year, they're not going to report it. Next year, they are going to report it. And then in this year, what they're going to do is you're going to be graded on it. What are they going to grade on? One, they're going to track our students. And any of our students that don't have to take remedial courses when they go to college, we get credit for that. If they have to take remedial courses, then we're going to be dinged for it. In our particular district, we have, for lack of a better term, those of you that are around vocational, now known as career tech. A lot of those get industrial credentials. If they're working in auto repair, they can get an industrial credential, or welding, or whatever program it is. Different industries have different credentials. If they earn one of those while in high school, we'll get credit for that. Students that take post-secondary options, they go to the college, they get college credit while they're in high school, we'll get credit for that. If any student takes an AP exam and they score a 3 or better, we'll get credit for that. So now they're tracking our students when we're gone to see how well they do later. A couple of other things. The benchmarks, what they're going to have for that is on the A, B, C, D, F. It's going to be 90, 80, 70, 60 is how they're going to rate the report card. How they figure that out yet, they're still deciding. The other thing is when we get what's called a performance indicator. And what a performance indicator is your graduation rate. You have to hit this mark. Your attendance rate, you have to hit 93%. You must have 75% of your students in 3rd grade pass English. You must have 75% of your kids in 3rd grade pass math. And that's how we get our indicators. Next year, they're raising that 75% to 80% of your students are going to have to pass. That's a huge jump. That's a huge leap. And then they're going to move the social studies assessment to those grade levels. Educational choice scholarships, those are for students that want to go to private schools. There used to be one window that they could go, now there's going to be 2. And now what we're going to do is if we have gifted students that take a course, like if they're in 3rd grade and they go to 4th grade for reading, and they can take that score, show proficiency in 4th grade, now we're going to get credit for gifted students that score above their grade level and where they're at, which they've never done before. 3rd grade reading guarantee. We've all been reading about it. Basically what this means is this. We have to test every single student, kindergarten through 3rd grade, to see if they are at what we call grade level. Are they reading at the grade level that the benchmark says? If in kindergarten or 1st or 2nd or 3rd grade they're not reading at that grade level, then we have to have immediate services and then regular diagnostic assessments. That means to see if there's another test for the students to make sure that we are getting their reading deficiency. And now there's another word called the RIMP, which stands for Reading Improvement Monitoring Plan. The state's going to come up with that, and now we're going to have a plan for those students. The goal is that once you identify those students in kindergarten that they're not reading at grade level, you get immediate services from a reading teacher. And the same thing in 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade. Because the intent right now for the legislature is if they aren't reading at grade 3, they're going to be held back in reading. Grade 3 reading. They may go on and take 4th grade math if they're there, but that is what the plan is right now. We had the 4th grade guarantee. Some of you may remember that a few years ago. Now the 3rd grade reading guarantee, reading teachers. To be a reading teacher is way different. You used to have to get an endorsement and some things. Now they've really ramped it up. And I just put those up there to see that and I've advised teachers, because this 3rd grade reading guarantee is going to be around, if you want to be guaranteed a pretty much a job, get the reading endorsement or get one of these, because we're going to need reading teachers in the future, because there's not a whole lot of folks that have this criteria. One thing it also does, it reinforces statutory deadlines for teacher evaluation and non-renewal notices. For many, 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 many years, April 30th was the date that you had to notify teachers whether they were going to be renewed or non-renewed. Now that's going to June 1st. Gives the teachers and the administrators more opportunity to do some evaluation and improve wherever it is. The big thing is the value-added method. This is huge. Basically, after July 1, 2014, teachers are going to be graded basically in 2 areas. It's called the OTES, the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System. Half of it will be what's kind of traditional, the actual written evaluation on how they're doing. The other half is going to be on how their students perform on tests. Now, how that will work is, it says here growth based on value-added progress dimension. What that means is, it will be 50% on tests for the teachers that teach in those grade levels that you test. We test in 3rd grade, we test in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th grade. For other teachers, we have to get student growth measurements that they have to involve. But part of their value, part of this that we're going to be dealing with, this is statewide, not just here, is part of that, and it is the test. And it's going to be some interesting times in the state on how this plans out. The other thing is they gave the State Board of Education some requirements that they have to do. One, they have to submit a plan on how to intervene in persistently poor performing districts. That's why we got to move, and we got to make adjustments, because we don't want to be under any of this. Also, they have until April 30th on the letter grade equivalents. Those 6 areas that I showed you that the new report card is going to be involved in, they haven't weighted those. They haven't decided which one is more important. Is graduation more important than achievement? Are they all equally weighted? So they have to decide which play is more important than the other. And we are going to the PARC assessment. And I'll show you what that is. Basically, all testing for students are going to be done online. It's going to be computer or it's going to be iPad. It's not going to be paper and pencil anymore. And we're going to be going into the Common Core standards, which I'll talk about. But what this is going to do is basically when we start administering these new tests, which are going to be in 2 years, they're going to give basically districts a safe harbor, because if there's any mistakes, if you're an excellent district and you fall, or you're an A district and you fall to D, they're going to give them a safe harbor or give them some leeway to try to adapt to the new test. Now, what we're in is this. You're going to go, okay, Lorain's an academic emergency. We have what's called the Ohio Improvement Plan. And what this is it's for districts in improvement status, or those buildings in improvement status, that's us, and it goes on and on and on. You can look it up, it's real long. But basically what it is you probably remember No Child Left Behind. That was Senator Kennedy's and George Bush, the second one, big push back in the early 2000s. And if you remember, as part of that, they said next year every child in the country will read. If you remember that, every child will read, no matter what. Well, you know, in 2002 that sounded good, or 2003, whenever that came in, but over time they realized, wow, maybe there's some variables there. They also had some penalties in there. You blow up the school, you fire all the staff, you fire the principal, you have parents run the schools, and a whole lot of other things. Well, they discovered that they've done that in different locations around the country, and researchers found that that really doesn't work. So what Ohio did, and a lot of other states, is they said, let's have an alternative to this. What they have is what's called the Ohio Improvement Plan. What the Ohio Improvement Plan is it's a document that's on the website. It's on a website. It's maybe 200-300 pages long, and there's benchmarks in there. So you say, for math in this grade level, we will do this. Here's the people responsible for it. Here's what we have to achieve. Here's how we're going to achieve it. All that's put together. That's all sent down to the state. They review it. We get support, what's called the State Support Team 2, and it comes out of our ESC, which is over in Elyria. Those folks come in and they help us improve what's going on. Now, that means that we are in year 5 of Ohio Improvement Plan. That's when they started it. We've been in it for 5 years. The decision framework is that thing on the internet I talked about where we have to put those things in. They also mandate these things to happen. We have to have a district leadership team, which consists of teaching staff and administrative staff, and they are the ones who go through that whole decision framework to put together how we're going to do it. That then goes down to a building leadership team where they take that district leadership information and they assimilate it for the building, because maybe that building doesn't need math as much. They need more of reading, and they can adapt it for the buildings. Then their requirement is to have teacher-based teams. What the teacher-based teams are to do is to take the data for the students and how they're doing well in their buildings, and then they adapt their teaching and their strategies in their buildings to get the students to improve. All based upon, from the top, the bottom, to put it all together to get our improvements. Out of that then, what they do is they look at all our test scores and they categorize our school buildings. And here's how our buildings are categorized. We have 2 priority buildings, Credit Recovery and New Beginnings. Those happen to be our alternative schools, so I'm not surprised they're in priority. Improvement, that means they need a little more help, and these are our focus schools. With that comes some additional funding and some additional help and some additional requirements that each of those buildings have to do to improve, to move on to that status. Now, out of all this, you hear this all bantied about, but in 2007, the state superintendent the legislature came up with 3302.10, which is called an Academic Distress Commission. And what this is basically if you are if any of these things happen for 3 or more years, academic emergency or D or F, this is under the new law, because it won't be academic emergency, it will be F, or academic watch will be D. If you are in for 3 years and you have over 50% of your building in that, then what happens is they create this Academic Distress Commission, which is nothing more than State Superintendent of Schools has a number of people he appoints, the board appoints 2, and then you have to draw up a plan. Youngstown is, I believe, the only district that's in this. If you want to go online, their academic distress plan is online. If you look at it, it's nothing more than what we're doing here and what all districts are doing. It just lays out what you have to teach and what you have to do. We have got a year or two to stop this, to make sure that we raise ourselves out, because we were just there. We have been there. We know what to do. So it's our responsibility collectively to make sure that that happens. This is some information that I look at over time, and this is the year. This is our number of students, what we had per grade level, and pretty much what you're looking at is a 30% reduction over that time, which nobody's surprised. Now you're going to say, well, they all open enrolled, they're all charter schools. That's somewhat true, but there's also people that have moved out of town. You've had a whole lot of folks move out of Lorain. The population's gone down, and it's not my parents moving out of town, the retired folks. It's usually the ones with children. So we have to address this, because that also affects our funding. Now, what we did was, this was put together, and this is all our test scores and our percentages. And you can see this is from 1995, 96. If anything, you can see when these tests stopped and started. What I wanted to show you is this is what we're looking at. Third grade reading, we were at 63.5% back in 03. Now we're at 58%. So we need to look at our programs, and this really is part of the guiding on what we need to do to improve. The one thing I want to point out, because it's been in the paper so much, is we have a crawl score. That's the kindergarten readiness assessment for literacy. Are our students ready? And there's 3 bands, what they call 3 bands of that. So they test the students. Band 1 is, you can see they need intense instruction. That means they really need help to be ready for kindergarten. 2 years ago, because this year's data is not released yet. It should be by the end of the month. I was just told today by the state. But you're looking at 53% of our kids need intense instruction in kindergarten. This is, they need targeted instruction. That means they're not quite ready, but they do need some work. 33% of our kids there. And this is enriched instruction. That means they're ready to move on. 13%. Now, whatever the reason is, we can all debate it or whatever, but that's our reality. That's what we have to do. What has to happen then is we have to then give more than a year's worth of growth for each of those students so they're ready for that 3rd grade. Part of that is early childhood. Lorain had a great early childhood preschool at one time. Once again, money ended. It ended. And we're going to try and address that in some other areas, which I'll talk about in a second. This is just the scores for the high school, the 7 through 12. And then this is the key here. It shows pretty much our poverty level, which was at 29, 50%, 57% back in 99, 2000. We're at 85%. It's probably a little bit higher right now. And those are our students. How that's identified, that's our free and reduced lunch for that. We only got 1 out of 26 of our indicators, the ones that we missed or the ones that we were supposed to get. Graduation rate. Everybody thinks that graduation rates were great when I was in school. They were great when I went to school. Well, I'll tell you what, I know how many freshmen I entered Lorain High with in 1970, and we didn't graduate that many. We graduated a lot, but a whole lot dropped out. And average around the country was only 50–60% graduation. And I'll bet you all you in here can go, yep, I know, so-and-so quit, and he quit, and he went to Ford, and he went out to Shutu, and he went to Ship, and blah, blah, blah. And that was fine for those days. But the problem is nowadays we have to deal with that reality. So pretty much we've been right around 80, 85, we've dipped here or there, 80%. But this year we're going to show 64%. So what's going to come out in the paper is you're going to say 64%? You got to be kidding me. What happened? You lost 16%? Well, here's what happened. The state changed the rules. And here's how the rules changed. Graduation rate is based upon number of kids that come in their freshman year and number of kids that graduate on time. On time. We have students that miss something and they graduate in the summer, and we have a number of students that the light bulb goes on when they're sophomores. Ooh, guess I better get serious now, and they graduate in 5 years. We don't get credit for that. The other thing is, this is part of our EMIS and our tracking. What that is every student, when they come into our school district or in any school district, they get an SSID number. It's a student identification number. And what happens is now, when our student leaves us and they transfer to another district, we transfer them over, because when they go to that new district, their number goes with them. But what happens is if a student drops out, they drop off, and that shows as a dropout. But if they go to Chicago, Puerto Rico, we don't always track them. They're shown as a dropout. They may have graduated from those places. So what the state has done is forced us to track every one of our students when they leave us. It's a big deal for the urban districts. There was a report that was just released on what they called mobility rates, and they did it in the state of Ohio, and they did Cleveland area, and they did Tier 1 and Tier 2. It was put out by the Fordham. And it is interesting to show the mobility rates. We're 30% mobility rates. It's pretty high. Now that's a challenge we have to face. But that's why we have now got to track our students better, because if you go by the old method, we're right up around 81% last year. But that's something that's an internal issue. But these are the academic emergency. This is watch. We were continuous improvement for 2 years. We're back down to watch, and then we were up to continuous improvement, and this year we're down in emergency. Okay, you're going to go, okay, Tom, that's great. But what's that all mean? Well, here's what we're doing. First of all, we have a short-term plan. One, our tests are coming. Our tests are coming in April, they're coming in March. So what we're going to do is, you read in the paper today, if you read the article about skill building initiatives. One, we got increased student achievement. We all know that. There's not a person in the city that won't say that. Guided practice. This is what we need to do. We need to identify, and we've got 45-minute blocks for each math and science, or math and reading, which is where the majority of the testing is. We need to get the instruction, the assessments, and the tutoring in place for those students, and we have 56 days to do it. Clock is ticking. That's short term. With that then, we have the skill building, and then we have the reading and math, the instruction, we assess the students, and we have tutoring. We put tutoring in place because we need a longer school day. Our elementary school day is entirely too short. It was great for the old days, it's not great for now. So what we did this year is, the one thing that's good about where we're at academically is we do get additional funds. You need to spend them appropriately, and you need to spend them target where they need to be for those student achievement. So for tutoring, what we've done is we've extended the elementary day for the tested students, 3rd through 8th grade, because that's where our money is, and they can stay an hour, and we have the money to bus them home, which is a real crucial piece for that. We have about a 53% district-wide students participating in that. That is huge. We're also working with the Boys and Girls Club, because we have a number of students that are involved in that, to ramp up their, what they call their power hour, to get more academics and get their homework and help those students for what they need at that time. Now, what we need to do, everybody goes, Tom, what's your plan, what's your plan, what's your plan, what's your plan? Friday, I'll be here 6 months. That'll be my 6-month date on Friday. One, Lorain's had a lot of past successes. I could ask every one of you, name me a success, and you go right down the line. And then name me a failure, and you'll list twice as many. But we need to focus on our past success, but we need to go on the future, because the rules are different. The rules are so different, and they've changed in the last 2 years under this legislature and this governor. It is way different than even it was 10 years ago. So a couple things. One, first thing is we passed the first levy in 20 years. New operating money in 20 years. And we got to be very, very, very careful with that money, because that was a gift. A note was a gift. We need to be very careful. But it didn't solve our money problems. It only got us halfway to where we needed to be, so we're still in debt. And I'll talk about the governor's proposal in a minute. But successes, one, post-secondary options. We have it at the high school. Our kids can learn those credits for high school students. Our career tech programs, most schools don't have that. It's called a comprehensive high school. We're one of the few in the state. We're down to very few that have that. We need to ramp that up. Our kids need that hands-on career tech to get them ready for either a job or whether it's a community college or some other type of skill training. That's a way to do it. With that, we've got some grant money, which I'll talk about in a second. iPad initiative. All our 5th and 6th graders are going to have iPads. Are they taking them home? No, they're in the building. But you ought to see what research is showing with kids with iPads. They will sit there work on that iPad and do their lessons for 2 hours where they wouldn't do 5 minutes in your class. It is amazing. With that, though, we put in training, and we put in the money to purchase the apps to get our students to learn on those. The other thing we have is a MacBook literacy initiative. We're going to have MacBooks come in for our 7th and 8th graders. They're the MacBook Airs. And this is all part of the testing that's coming up in 2 years. All our buildings are now wireless. That's huge, because that's going to be part of the new assessment. The other thing that's real big that people in Lorain don't realize, pay to play for sports. We may not have quite as many, and we need to try to get some more back, but ask your neighbors. I have family members go, man, it cost me $500 for all that stuff for those things. That is gigantic today. You all went to school, it was all free. You just showed up and made the team. But now, we're one of the few that don't charge. And we couldn't, with the students that we had, we couldn't do that. The other thing we have successes. We have the early college partnership with Lorain Community College, which has been there for a long time. We have outstanding music organizations. Love to hear that band, especially when they say Lorain High School Band. I like that. We have Credit Recovery Academy, which is, sorry. Every time I hear that, it warms my heart. I do like Admiral Kings. Lorain Admiral Kings, I was there too. But their credit recovery. That's an area in the new beginnings. We have issues with those, but we're creating those. What I tell everybody is think of this. Every one of you has a friend or a relative that didn't fit in high school. Didn't fit. They just didn't fit. For whatever reason. You can all say, yeah, Jimmy, he came there. Oh, he couldn't make it at Lorain High. And those students in the past were able to either drop out or go get gainfully employed, or maybe they got their GED, or maybe they came back to school. But we don't have that luxury anymore. So now we have to have alternative education for them, and a lot of that is our e-school for them. High school busing. Here's something else that people don't realize. There's only 2 other districts in this county that bus high school kids. One is Firelands because it's the largest district, I believe, in the state of Ohio, size-wise. And the other one, I believe, is Keystone because they're all over the county too. But nobody else does high school busing. I believe Sheffield does, but only because it works with their junior high elementary. We're one of the very few that have high school bus service. So that, and that was important for me to bring back because in Lorain, this is one thing I know living here, you can't get to that end of town. I mean, there's only 2 ways to get to South End. And it's difficult. So it's difficult for our kids to walk that way. So that was a big important thing. The other thing that we have very good is a specialized, individualized program. We have a large population of special needs students here. You name the special need, Lorain pretty much has those, and we're pretty good at it. And a lot of folks come here because we have those special needs programs. A lot of districts send those kids away to other areas, but we do have a good program there with good staff to deal with that. New Beginnings Academy, that gives the students a second chance. That needs to be revamped, and we're working on that. We also have the Fund for Enhancing Education, commonly known as the Endowment Fund, that funds a lot of things for students. What we're doing right now, so what are you focusing on? One, we're going to review all our instructional programs. Our test scores aren't where they need to be. Why? Is it because our curriculum isn't there? Is it our pacing guides? Are we not teaching the right thing at the right time? Is it our instructional model? Is it our differentiation? All that has to be there. Do we not have the right materials? What do we need to add? So we're in the process of reviewing all of those things. Common Core standards are coming. Okay, so what's all this Common Core stuff? When you went to school, we all got what the teacher usually taught was out of a book, and you learned the book. You had the hardcore History of the United States, 1865 to modern day. And you went through that book. And you do chapter test at the end, and that's what you filled in, and that was it. Well, what's happened was we had the academic content standards. So those books are important, but not as important. The Common Core, they put together what students need to learn, and 40-some states have adopted these. So we basically have a national curriculum. When they said local control, that's over. It's Common Core. And they're going to fully implement those in 2014-15 because we need to train our staff. But what they're going to do, I attended a session this morning on this, is they're going to change the testing too. In the old days, you all took a test, and everybody says, well, you're teaching to the test nowadays. Well, not exactly. When I went to school, I can remember them going, okay, this is going to be on the test. So you wrote it down. So was that teacher teaching the test? Absolutely. They were teaching to their test or the chapter test, but now we're teaching to a set of standards. These Common Core standards are also going to be at the college. One of the questions that we saw today that's going to be on this assessment is they're going to give students 3 different readings on Amelia Earhart was this particular example. And you had to read 3 different readings on her, and it dealt with her bravery. The question then was, after reading these 3, compare and contrast all authors' slants on why Amelia Earhart was brave. Then analyze and synthesize on why you think she was brave based upon the author's arguments. Well, that's way different than, was Amelia Earhart brave, and write on something. It's going to be way different, way different. So we need to work on getting our students ready for that, and our teaching staff too. And then we need to focus on all our needs, especially our gifted students, because we've got a lot of them. Third grade guarantee, I've talked about that. We've got to get more information to the community on what that is. This is something that we got to work on, customer service driven commitment. That's something we got to do. And that's a bottom up, top bottom, and we're working on some things that we need to do for that. Safety and security, there's a committee right now with the police chief, and a number of his top people have met with me and our safety folks, and Lorain actually pioneered one of the first safety plans in the state with an FBI consultant at the time, way back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that plan was actually copied around the state. We are reviewing that and reviewing that after what's happened recently, and the state is actually putting some big things in there, so you may be seeing some changes on that. There's a lot of things on the new Alice method as opposed to lockdowns and things that we'll be talking about. We've got new buildings, and the one thing we need to do is preserve them, and we need to maintain them. So we're working on preventive maintenance, because the one thing I don't want is what happens right here, all the holes in the roofs. Oh, we won't repair the roofs this week. Oh, we won't, and you know what ends up happening. This is exciting, the new Lorain High School and all that goes with that. With passing the levy, we have a smaller budget shortfall. Everybody read in the newspaper about Governor Kasich's plan, and we're supposed to get $6 million. If you remember the way the budget works, it now goes to the House, and then it goes through the Senate, and then they have to chew it up and spit it out. He's got, my question is it $6 million real dollars? If the money follows the student like he's talking about, if 30% of our students go elsewhere, that means take 30% of that money right off the bat, and that's gone. We still have a $2 to $3 million deficit that we have to pay back and take care of. That's going to eat up some of it. And depending on how things are calculated, and as I said in the paper, we'll see at the end. I applaud what he did, addressing the issues with our district, because basically the way his plan is set up is he looked at property values and how much a mill raises, and how poor your district is, how many number of special needs students you have, how many students are on free and reduced lunch. So he's addressing those to try to even the playing field, basically on the community's ability to pay. We put 3 or 4 mills on here, and they put 3 or 4 mills on in Beechwood. Believe me, they raise a lot more money than we do based upon property values. So we'll see where that ends up. If it ends up where we think it might be, that'll be great. Full day kindergarten, that's huge. Got to have it. Got to have it. If you're not getting it in the beginning, then we got to remediate all the way through. Student assignments. Some of the things, this is huge to me. Why do people go to charter schools? For various reasons. But I think one thing is, and what people have told me over and over is, I know I'm going to go to that building. What people have told me they're tired of is, well, I don't know what building I'm going to. I don't know what teacher I'm going to have. I don't know what principal I'm going to have. Last year I was over here, then I was here. When I first came back to the district and I walked around and talked to teachers, and some of them said, this is my 5th building in 7 years. That's not stability. So one thing that people like is, when I went to school, I know I was going to Larkmore. I know who my 4th grade teacher was going to be. I know who probably my 5th grade teacher was going to be. I know who I didn't want. But we pretty much knew that. I knew who my principal was going to be. In those days you got paddled, but you don't do that anymore. But you knew those things. And stability is crucial. It's crucial, especially for our people. You need to know the people in your neighborhood. You need to know your students. You need to know their parents. You need to know their grandparents. So that's one thing that I want to make sure that students know what building they're going to, know what their classroom is going to be before they leave. Yes, we have a high mobility rate, even if it's 20–25%. Not that much changes over the summer, but even if you have 25 kids in a class and 25% of them change, it's only 5 students, you still got the same 20. Then I can remember teachers calling them, hey, Jimmy, I'm going to be your new kindergarten teacher this year, and you can do those type of things. And that's important. Student schedules. High school students and junior high students need to know before they leave what their schedules are. They need to know where they're going to be. That is incumbent upon us to start that early to make sure that happens. Yes, we have students that fail classes. Yes, we have students that need to take other classes, but they need to know where they're going and where they're going to be. The other thing we need to do is we need to schedule to reflect the student need. All of you know block scheduling. Block scheduling is a lot like a college. You take this class for this period of time and that's it. But research shows students in algebra, they need algebra every day all year. Geometry, they need it every day all year. Span foreign language, you need it every day, all year. History, yeah, you can teach that in chunks, that's okay. But what we need to do is have those all year. Because what happens with some of the blocks is some of those students may have their math class September of this year, and then not may get their next math class till September of the next year, and they've done nothing from January to June. Now there are some classes for the older students that it will fit, and it does work for them. Labs are better in longer classes for that, but it needs to reflect student need. It's difficult. The other thing is our academic calendar. You're going to pass a calendar tonight. One of the big things I heard was we got to have professional development. It's required by the state, and we got a lot of money. We have to do it, but the get out early every day Tuesdays, they said, doesn't work. So we're doing away with those, and we're going to go to more of a monthly, longer period of time that you'll know beforehand, and we'll avoid the testing months and those things, because that shows what has to happen. The targeted after-school tutoring I talked about, and we need some summer programs, and we're looking at those too. They've got to be authentic programs in that they're going to focus on what the students need to do. And summer programs, we've always done them at the end of the school year for the most part. Great, you know, and if you do them in June, that's kind of like the end of the school year. We can do them in August when the students are getting ready to come back to school, so they're ready and you can remediate or do anything they need to do at that point. So that's a focus we're doing on. Instructional best practices, that's what we're working on with our teachers. What works for students, how to differentiate, how to make them differently. Using data to effectively drive instruction. Basically, you need to know if you taught something today, if the students didn't learn it, what are you going to do it the next day to do that? Rather than, for those of us that are old, you go, the chapter test will be Friday. Well, I got an F, and you don't know if you learned it Monday through Thursday or not. Park assessments, that's what I talked about. All the tests now are going to be on a computer, or they're always all going to be on iPads that the students are going to take. And there's going to be a window of time that they take it. What we're told is it's going to be like you're going to have 5 weeks for these students to take the test. The good thing about that is we now will have information for those students within a week or two. Right now, the kids all take the tests in March and April. You know when we get them? The day before school starts. Well, how does that help the teacher that taught that way back in March? They don't even get that information until August. So that should speed things up. We're also partnering with the Lorain County Educational Service Center, which is over on Lake Avenue in Elyria. Early childhood needs. We need preschool here so bad. We can't afford it, but the governor's promised some things. But what we are doing is I'm on a Congress or a coalition of all the early childhood providers in the county, and we're all on this together. And what we're looking to do is, if you have a preschool, maybe we can get some educational things for you that we can assist you to help those students. So maybe we're not doing it, but we can at least get something there for you rather than just watching TV or doing something like that. We're going to collaborate with other school districts, authentically collaborate. We're already doing some of that because there's some school districts that are doing quite well. You know, everybody says, oh, Lorain's unique, Lorain's different, our students are different. I can't believe they're different than East Cleveland, Marion, Mansfield, Cincinnati, Columbus. I can't believe they're that different. They all have those challenges. And you know what? Some of them are doing pretty well. So we need to find out what they're doing and utilize some of their things. We need to review our alternative programs and that has to do with our new beginnings and our credit recovery. Those programs are needed, and those students need to make some progress there, but we also, some students have to go to those places, but then we have to have some type of way for them, if they want to go back to traditional high school, how do they earn their way back, and how do they stay there? And a lot of time it isn't like, you're back tomorrow. Some of it's transition. Some of those students maybe only could do an hour or two at a traditional high school. But we need to get them transitioned because eventually they graduate and they're in society. And they're going to have to support us at some point in time. Electronic instruction, what we have now is a number of different electronic instruction. That's the e-schools, the online things. Everywhere you turn, you see e-cot. Join this school. I always love the commercial on TV where you see the student. All his problems are solved when he drops out of school. He sits in front of the TV. That may work for some students. If any of you have ever tried to take an online class, I have. And I'm pretty focused. It's pretty tough. So what they find is for our students, it's a blended teaching and the electronic instruction. They need both. But what we want to do there is we have electronic instruction at our credit recovery, at our digital academy, at our new beginnings, and also at the high school. We need to have the same program and each one that addresses all the students' issues. So if a student goes from this school to this school, they can go, oh, I know this program, I can log in and go. as opposed to learning something entirely different, where now the teacher's got to go through all the learning and the login process. The other thing that we're doing is APQC, American Productivity and Quality Center. You can look that up online. They have two divisions. They have an educational division. They have a business division if they work in business. Basically what this is I got approached by Nordson and Nord Foundation to help us basically deal with our administrative issues. Everybody says, why don't you run it like a business? Well, you can't run it all like a business, but you can run a lot of it like a business. That's where these folks come from. We've had an all-day session, an 8-hour session, which is paid for out of this foundation. What they basically do is they have a quality team approach to how to do problems and communication. Business has been doing this for decades. When business started having problems, they started doing this for decades. In education, we haven't done that. We're still siloed here. We're all in our little barns, and nobody wants to talk to anybody, and everybody's territorial. But when this starts to happen, we start to reduce costs for whatever it is, because we start to, what they do is help you look at processes and management and deal with things like, how come when I go to do something, I got to have this person sign it, this person sign it, this person sign it, and this person sign it, then it's got to go back to this person again, then it goes to payroll. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So they will help us with those processes. We should have confirmation of that funding, I hope, within a week or so, and then what we will do is they will be here for 6 months training our folks and working with us on particular projects. School turnaround training, and this is for our, and coaches for our principals. School turnaround is, the state of Ohio has some, quote, official lists of programs that they recommend, Ohio Department of Education. I'm working real close with ODE on some things to help us. They actually want us to succeed, believe it or not. They want us to get better. So what we identified is our principals need some professional development. So what school turnaround is it's approved by the state. The lady that runs this, her name is Jillian Williams. What they do is their folks all have been in urban districts and have taken their schools and taken them from failing schools to effective schools. Her particular school was in the Bronx. She had the worst elementary in the Bronx and turned it around. One of the other ladies, her worst school, she was in, I believe, Houston, Texas. So these are authentic people. So this is, they are with our folks. I think they come on about a monthly basis, and then they are training them on how to be leaders, how to look at data, how to help improve environment and those kind of things. We're getting this money from the state of Ohio because it's part of a turnaround initiative that we can afford to pay for. So they are helping us there. The endowment grant committee, we know about. The business advisory committee, I'm putting that back together. The one thing I want them to do is, one, show them everything that we have. They can give us advice. I also want to show them with this APQC. Here's what we're doing for a business model, and I'm sure they can help us on that. It's important to have our business community, our local community, how we can work with them. Technology upgrade. When I came, I asked, what's our refresh plan? And they went, if it breaks, we fix it. Well, we had a problem with the server that went down over Christmas. We have an air conditioning unit that went down in the storm, and one of our servers went down. It overheated and it burned up. How long has the server been in service? 2003. They don't last 9 years. We got way more. So what we've got to do is, whether we can afford it or not, how can we refresh? And in our elementaries, the computers we bought in '04 are not going to run what we need today. So we may not be able to do them all, but we need to have a plan in place that we upgrade for our students what we're going to do. And this needs to be a long-term schedule. Do the right thing. If you remember that, that was a partnership between the Lorain Journal and the Lorain Police Department that somehow ended. We have been meeting. The forms are out in the buildings now. That's in place. We should have some nominations for the school board in the next board meeting or two. So we've reinstituted that. We're working on a marketing public relations plan. One thing you're going to see a couple billboards around town. All-day kindergarten, Lorain City Schools, and our lighthouse. It's starting. So we need to make sure that that gets out there. Shared services. We're talking with the City of Lorain on shared services. There's a lot of things we do together that we can save some money, and also with other school districts. Website overhaul. When I looked to come back here, I went on the website, Lorain. Wow. Enough said. So I said, I need that change. So what we've done is, well, it's actually blue. It comes up green, but it'll be in the Titan colors. It'll be the lighthouse,
And the way this will work is any event for the day will be right here. You'll be able to scroll it at all schools and it'll be listed. This will be pictures of our students in real time that'll flip through so you'll get to see your child. If something happens, what I want here is a principal or someone will write something, just a little 2-paragraph thing about what's happening in the buildings with a picture. And these scroll down. So if they're 6 months in the past, you can scroll down and get all that information. Over here will be all the schools. The nice thing about this is principals will be able to access in their buildings and put things on in real time. Right now it's very difficult for us to change things in real time. There'll be a historical page. There'll be links that you'll be able to have documents and take a look at some things. There's a whole lot of things. One other thing that's real big on this. This is this company does, the majority of their work is in school districts. So if you go on other school sites, it may be similar. 2 things that we're going to roll out over the summer on this. Parents or anybody will be able to click on this website and you'll be able to say, yes, send me text, yes, send me emails. So when something comes up, like there's a snow day, you'll get a text immediately. That will be the first place I'll text, so you'll have it before Channel 3. So it'll go ding, ding, roll over, and then students can go right back to bed. Or any kind of emergency thing that parents need to know, it'll go on there immediately. And it's instantaneous. So that's some things that we'll be able to utilize with that, which is really huge. We're reviewing all our grants. We talk about the grants in this district, and I make the joke this district never met a grant they didn't like. But some of the grants that we have need to focus on the mission. They've got to be on the academic mission of the district. Some of the grants we have are in direct conflict with each other. And as I joke, and a lot of us joke, the good news is you got the grant. The bad news is you got the grant. Because with the grant comes a ton of reporting. And you almost have to hire a person full-time to do that. That's just the nature of the beast with grants. If any of you dealt with them in any federal or state level, it's pretty incredible. The biggies that we have, one, are 21st Century. That's our after-school programming, which right now is our Boys and Girls Club, but we need to focus more on the academic end of that. We have Gear Up, which we're looking at. That is to increase graduation and college readiness. We need to do more with that. And Race to the Top, we have 1 more year. And that is for the Common Core. That's the teacher evaluation, the principal evaluation, and some instructional coaching. That's 1 more year, and then that grant is gone. We're also not going to go after every grant in the world. We're going to say, here's our mission. Let's go after the grants that work. And let's get what we need. Because there's a whole lot out there that they'll give us, but that really don't fit what we're doing. The big grants, what everybody talks about, you're going to see on the thing tonight, is Title I, Title IIA. And everybody always, that's, well, it's a title, it's a title, it's a title. There's a ton of title programs. There's been a ton over the years. Title I is part of the old Elementary and Secondary Education Act. If you're really old, you remember President Johnson in 1965, that's when this passed. It's evolved over time. And basically what it is for is that's actually right out of the regs, right there. It's all, you can go look it up. But pretty much it's financial assistance with high numbers or high percentages of children from low-income families to meet the challenging academic standards. If you keep that in mind, that's what you spend the money on. That's what people forget. That's what you spend the money on. Not to employ people, not to do that. It's for this. That's what I think about when I want to spend these funds. And there's formulas that they do based on a number of estimates. It's restricted money. So when you hire people, you can't supplant. Okay, what's supplant mean? That's the big word. That's the big buzzword. Supplant is this. The federal government expects you to hire first-grade teachers. That's your job, locally. You hire first-grade teachers. Whether you can afford them or not, you're expected to hire fourth-grade teachers, first-grade teachers, whatever. We hire what's called title teachers or title tutors, title. What they do is assist the teachers in getting the students for reading or math. And they have to be highly qualified, and there's a whole lot of little other things in there. But that's why when you run out of local money and you have to lay off first-grade teachers, you can still have title teachers because that money's still there because your students didn't change. Well, why can't you hire a first-grade teacher? That's a supplant. That would be supplanting what the locals are supposed to pay for. So that's why how do they have money for that? Like those iPad initiatives. They show the research there. You can spend X number of dollars on equipment as long as it is under the guidelines and it gets approval. So the iPads, yes, they're going to students, they're going in the classrooms, they're going to teach them better reading and math skills, that you can buy. The other thing that that's set aside for is professional development for teachers. They expect you to professionally develop your teachers, to make them better teachers, which one will then help meet the academic standards and ensure that all children meet those. That's Title I. That's real crucial. Title IIA is a whole different program. We don't get near as much money there. That's a much smaller amount of money. But that's about improving teacher quality through PD, reduction of class size, recruitment and retention strategies, and hold districts accountable for those things. So that's where a lot of our money comes for all those. And you have to spend this money. They don't want it back. You have to spend it. So when they say you have to spend this on professional development, they expect you to do that. So those are some challenges, but those are the big Title I and Title IIA programs. This is our expectations from everybody. This is from the students, from the parents, from the administration, from the superintendent, from the school board, from the teachers, everybody. We've got to own this, we've got to be responsible for it, we've got to be accountable. Easy words to say, easy thing to do, hard to put into practice, but those have got to be your guiding principles. And the last thing I want to talk about is a strategic plan, is what are we doing to go forward? When I asked here, well, is there a plan? What are we planning for? And everybody said, man, I'm just getting to June. That's all I want to do. I just want to get to June. So what we need to have here, and the district has had this in the past, and all businesses do this, we need to have a strategic planning process. Now, we got Norton Corporation Foundation donated the money to us for that. It's about $6,000 or $7,000. It was on the school board agenda. And Ohio School Boards Association will bring a team in to, all they do is facilitate it. We're in the process of getting representatives of the committee, and they make a recommendation to make sure you get all facets of the committee, or the community on this committee. What happens is they create action steps and measurable goals, and this is a plan that we'll look at for 5 years. Now, will you adapt the plan? Yes, you will, but you've got to know where you're going. Because what happens here is, when it comes time for me to put budgets and everything together on this, where do you put your money? What we have is, what's our core values in this community? What are the core values that we truly believe in for our students? I can add, everybody's got an opinion, but I'll bet you we're all on the same page, or we all can come down to a list of those. We don't have, what's our mission statement? We can, we will, all children can learn every day. We need a mission statement. Some of our school buildings have mission statements, and some of our groups have them, but we need one for the district. What does this district really stand for? We've got the lighthouse, it says Lorain City Schools, but what do we stand for? Why are we here every day? We need a vision statement. What's the vision for this district? Where are we headed? Where are we going? Goals. What goals are we trying to reach? Yeah, pass the test, we understand that, but there's got to be other goals. To make productive citizens, to give them opportunities in arts and music, whatever that would be. And then out of the goals that you set objectives on how to do that, and then you set the priorities. These are crucial for me, because that's how I set our budgets, and my staff sets a budget. What's important in this community? Where do we put our money? Yep, it's on student learning, but what else is important? There's other things that are near and dear to our heart. Tonight a gentleman spoke about your buildings need to look nice. That may be a strategic priority. That may be something. So those are some things that we need to look at. And that's a community thing, and once that's put in place, then we can focus. It's not Tom's vision or Tom's mission statement. It's a community's that I am then sworn to put forth. And we need to do that. This is important to me. This is you can see who quoted that. It's from the Harvard Principal Center. But I truly believe this. And the days of going in a room and just closing the door, we all need to talk to each other in the district. And that includes administrators, teachers, parents, everybody. Adults have to talk. And that's what energizes us and sustains it. Unless they talk with one another, observe one another, and help one another, nothing's going to change. So that is the short version of where we're headed in 6 months. Sorry, but I wanted to go through everything. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a strategic plan and some other things to put in place. But that's where we're headed, and some things we need to do. We got to do it together. We can all sit here and fight, but we can fight forever. When we're done, we go, you won, I won, and the kids suffer. And that's the key. Because when we look at our test scores and where we're at, and we can do better. We have done better. Our students can do better. And we can do better for them. Thank you.